as I started to write songs with a bunch of other people, I started to get cuts. You know, Jason Aldean cut a song of mine. Scotty McCreery cut a song of mine, and I started to hear these songs on the radio, and I was like, man, what would it feel like to have my voice on the radio? And that's kind of when the bug got put in me to try to really actively search out a record deal and put some music out myself. And now looking back at it, I've been doing this for a decade, and it's just been a whirlwind.
Speaking of searching songs out, I was searching high and low for A Piece of Wood. I couldn't find it on Apple Music. I couldn't find it on Spotify. So for people who don't know, that's it's a great story behind that being the song that you and your dad first wrote together.
Yeah, man. I think I was like 6 or 7 years old, and we wrote a song about building a guitar. And even to this day, I think my dad's got some home videos of us singing that. But man, we've definitely come a long way since A Piece of Wood.
It didn't end up being a number one for you, but it's
not a number one. It'll be on the greatest hits, though. You know, in a couple of years.
Because I did actually find audio of you and your dad singing it it was some kind of an event of some kind. And you busted out the guitar, and he was sitting there very excited. The look on his face is great because he's like, "Are you really going to do this right now?"
Oh, dude. Yeah, that was hilarious. I'm just so glad that my dad filmed all that stuff, because without it, there would be no way anyone would ever know what it was or where it came from. So
yeah, I feel like you're constantly writing songs, like to the point where when this pandemic thing first started, I remember a couple of months in, there was a story that you had written like 35 or 40 songs already. Are you always writing songs?
Yeah, I mean, if you look at my cell phone in my notes section, it's just, you know, thousands of titles and ideas and starts to songs or start to choruses. And if you pull up my voice notes, there's a bunch of melodies in there. Just, I don't know, man, my brain, like, it's a blessing and a curse to be a songwriter, because it's honestly tough to have a conversation with someone without hearing someone say a quote, and you're just, all you want to do is type it in your phone. You know, my wife has to get on me sometimes. She's like, hey, we can have a normal conversation without you thinking about turning it into a song. But I think that's how songwriter brain works. And when I have something to say, I get people on board, and we try to say it together. You know, it's just one of the unique ways that I communicate, you know, in life is through song form. And some things that I can't say, you know, out loud, I can say them in a song. And it's kind of where I just find my peace and joy is just writing music. So
given how many you've written, there's got to be one or two where they came to you in the strangest of places. I mean, Keith Urban talks about writing a song come to him while he's driving or while he's in the shower. Have there been some weird ones for you?
Yeah, there's a song that's going on side B of this project that'll come out later this year. That's called Your Mama's Front Door. And I grew up basically with my wife, and we've known each other since we were in first grade. And when I started to go over to her house and hang out with her, I was like 14 or 15 years old. And the other day I went and dropped my youngest off so Lauren's mom could watch her. And I noticed that there's been so many versions of myself that have walked through this front door. You know, I was a 15-year-old kid wanting to date this girl. Then I was dating her. Then we were broken up, but we were still friends. And then I was a fiance, and then a husband, and now a dad walking through this front door. And just like watching all the different phases of life that has crossed through that front door is amazing. And so I came home and wrote it that same day, just about all these phases I've been through at that house, and how me and that porch have a lot of history. And so it's just amazing how you can see things like a front door and turn that into a song. Those are some of my favorite ways to write music.
Are you possessive at all about songs that you write and that don't end up on albums? I mean, having written so many, they're not all going to end up on an album. So do you feel like you store those away a little bit, or do you allow those to go to other people?
You know, I'm a big believer that songs are going to find their home organically, you know, and a lot of the time I think people think that when I don't record a song that it wasn't good enough for the record. And, you know, there's some songs that just aren't good enough for anybody, you know, like there's some real garbage in there if you dig deep enough. But there's certain songs that just don't fit the vibe of the record that I thought were incredible, that I'm so down for other artist friends of mine to listen to. And if they make their record, then that just meant that's where that song was supposed to go. So just a big believer that songs do find their homes eventually.
So the new album, Country Again, side A, which, teaser, there's going to be a side B at some point. I love the sound of this album. It's very similar to some of the stuff you've done. It's very Thomas Rhett, but I'm curious because it's your fifth album. Going back to Thomas Rhett, who started, and Thomas Rhett on the first album, what's the biggest difference between he and Thomas Rhett on this album?
I mean, I think I've lived a lot of life. You know, I think I've learned a lot of really valuable lessons in getting married and becoming a dad, and playing some really bad shows and playing some really good shows, and writing some terrible songs and writing some good songs. And so I think like this record is as close to record one as I could get, but I just feel like I've grown so much as a songwriter since then that it felt good to kind of get back to the organic way of just writing with a guitar and getting in the studio with a band and letting the band be creative. And I think this is one of the most organic records I've made in a very long time.
So I know you love to experiment a little bit with at least one or two tracks on each album that you do. And, I think of like VHS, which was kind of a bit of a departure from the country side of things. And Country Gold was great on the Life Changes album. So which track on this album is one of those?
I would say either Put It on Ice or You Heard are a pretty big departure. And You Heard is definitely more in the folk Americana type arrangement. Sorry, I've got bad allergies. But I think Put It on Ice was one of those ones that started out almost basically as like a hip hop track. And sorry. And then we got in the studio and kind of morphed it into a sound that we thought would really fit this album. We also got Hardy to feature on that track too. So I would say both of those songs were kind of very, very experimental early on, but somehow we managed to kind of rope them back in to kind of fit the theme of this record. And I would just say thematically on this whole record, it was the most cohesive album I've ever made. Like you said, on the last record, going from VHS into like That Old Truck was a very different departure, and on this one, I wanted to have a theme for the first time in a very long time. And so you'll hear pedal steel and fiddle and dobro across this whole album. And it's just instruments that I haven't used in a while that kind of made this very fresh for me.
I love it. So the first four albums, you get 16 number ones. You got another number one with What's Your Country Song. That would be described as success. I mean, that is commercial success in this industry. How do you define success?
Man, I think it changes a lot. It used to be the size of venue that I could sell out that would define success for me. I think today, as a 31-year-old man, I would define success as if I can write songs that are extremely authentic and genuine and they're successful, that there is no greater success to me than that. There've been moments in my career where I put songs out that I thought were very radio friendly, or songs that I thought people would really enjoy. And today I'm just like, I definitely want to have success on the radio, but not at the expense of chasing something. You know what I'm saying? Like if I can really get in there and say exactly what I wanted to say and produce it how I wanted to produce it, and it's as successful on the radio, then that is the coolest part to me. And that would be how I measure success today.
Well, all of your Canadian fans in this country are listening right now, and they are excited about the fact that you got new music coming out. They're, of course, excited about the fact you'll be able to come back at some point and play live. So they are definitely looking forward to that.
Same.
Awesome. Thanks very much for this, Thomas. Appreciate it.
Thank you, buddy. Talk to you soon.
Yeah. Cheers.